Welcome to another episode of DZ Vision. It's a beautiful day here in Nassau, Bahamas, and today we're here at the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas because we're going to be doing a tour of the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. So, for all of my artists and art lovers, you're definitely going to enjoy this video. Okay, so before we go into the National Art Gallery and do the tour, I just wanted to show you where the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas is located. Now, this street here, this is West Street. And here you see across from the art gallery is the St. Francis Church. And then here you have the art gallery. And all this is West Street, and it goes down to Meeting Street. And through this first corner here, you would have the John Watlin's Distillery, where we'll probably do a video at another time. And then straight across the road, you would have the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. So that's not on the inside. And here we have the guardian of the gallery. How are you, sir? And here we are, National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. Let the tour begin.
Okay. Welcome to the NAGB, which is housed in the historic Villa Doyle. We are standing in one of our galleries, one of four galleries actually, and I am going to take you through three very different exhibitions today. We are standing in what we call our permanent exhibition. Now, this is an exhibition that showcases our national collection. A national collection is artwork that belongs to the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas, which by extension belongs to the country, which means it belongs to all of us, all of you. So our permanent exhibition tends to be a lot more educational. It tends to be more historic, and our theme for this current permanent exhibition is called Timelines, where we map the history of art in the Bahamas over the past almost 50 years. So since majority rule to about now. Now, as we walk through, and if you come to visit the gallery, the museum, you'll realize that not all of them are a part of the national collection. Some of them we actually get from two other large collections in the country, the Don Davies Collection and the Aguilar Art Foundation. And I want you to see just a few key pieces in this exhibition that really give you an idea of how Bahamian participation in the fine arts began in this country. So behind me, you will see two bows on the wall. And these were done in 1958 and 59 at Chelsea Pottery, which was basically the first art studio that Bahamians were able to learn and participate in this country. It's the first clay studio that was ever established in this country. A lot of people don't know about it. And these two pieces may have been touched by some of our most prominent Bahamian artists, people like Max Taylor, Kendall Hanna, Brent Malone. They were all a part of this studio at one point in time. And even though Chelsea Pottery's life was quite short here in the Bahamas, their impact was extremely significant. So as we move down, you'll see that the work changes. So we go from very classic pottery, very classic forms, quite European, moving into more day-to-day scenarios. So the marketplace, we know this is Government House. This is a painting of the Villa Doyle before it became the National Art Gallery. And this painting was done in 1969. The Villa Doyle did not become the home of the National Art Gallery officially until 2003. So you can see how long this has been around. This building is almost 200 years old. And as we move down here, we'll see this is a photograph of Leonard Boston Blackie Miller, one of our more famous boxers in this country. He was also a teacher, believe it or not. And here, I want to stop and talk about this a little bit. This is called Nassau Boy. And this was done by Max Taylor in 1973, the year of independence. And like I said before, he was one of that group of young artists who actually did work at Chelsea Pottery, who was able to start his artistic career in that space. This is a very different piece from what he would normally do. He's more well known for his prints, very beautiful prints. You might see one around the corner. But this, when you look at this, it speaks about Junkanoo, it speaks about community, it speaks about our African heritage. All of those things are coming together. It speaks about spirituality. You can see this very skeletal face here, right? In the background you see, it's almost like there's homes that go on as far as the eye can see. And this really speaks to what was happening in 1973. Majority rule happened first, 1973, this real, this like hyper engagement and this willingness with the community to embrace blackness and to elevate those who had not been elevated before. And there was this real kind of spirit of hope that you found in everything that was made around that time, including the music. Now, there's one more piece I want to focus on in this room. It's a favorite of mine. This is another photograph, and this is from Sanford Sawyer's photography that was in Over the Hill. Now, Over the Hill was once this burgeoning cultural space. You know, there were nightclubs that were the training grounds for many of our country's musicians. There were photography labs, there were barbershops and great restaurants, and I mean, it really was a space where people went to truly experience Bahamian culture in Nassau. And this is one of those photos that we were able to obtain from Sanford Sawyer's photography, and it's quite typical of photos that were done during that time. You see the backdrop. I think most people can remember have photos like this in their home. But what's really wonderful about this piece is the man's shirt. It says, "It's better in the Bahamas." And this was also done in 1976. So again, that spirit of hope, of things getting better, of everyone being able to participate, that was just permeating everything that was happening in this country. Now, something else I want to point out is that what makes this exhibition a little different is that while we have all these lovely art pieces on the wall, directly across we have the actual timeline where you can go and get information about every single period in time when these pieces were made. So in this room we move a little away from the typical timeline. We're branching into more experimental stuff. So talking about history, talking about the importance of conservation, and also looking at how Bahamian art and Bahamian artists, their participation in the arts has changed and grown over the past almost 5 decades. So if you look at the center here, we have, this is a part of LeVar Munro's Gun Dog series. Now, LeVar Munro is a young Bahamian artist who's really made a name for himself on the international stage. So if you look him up, you see him exhibiting all over the world. You see him in England, Canada, the US, Venice, all over, and doing some pretty incredible things. And LeVar himself grew up in the Over the Hill community and worked very closely with his uncle in the Junkanoo Shack. So there's a lot of influence there, again, from the Over the Hill community in his work. And for those who are familiar with the term gun dogs, when you think about gun dogs, you think about the gangs, but you also think about protection as well. So just having that conversation about them being hand in hand. And this is only about 2-3 years old, this piece. And directly opposite it, we have a very old piece and very different. You'll see that there are all these tools in the front here. And these are tools of conservationists. And a conservationist in the arts is somebody who takes care of artwork. So we're talking about artwork that's hundreds of years old, only several years old, decades old. This piece itself is a mural that was done in 1941. And this was done by an artist who was visiting the country, very well-known international artist, Kim Soldewell. And you can see it's a very kind of calm, relaxing, I mean, would you consider relaxing painting of a street in Nassau? Very different from Max Taylor's piece that's very much talking about Bahamian culture and spirituality. Very different from LeVar's piece that's talking about, you know, you could think about it talking about guns, you could think about it talking about protection, you could even think about it talking about violence, right? So very different and a very different gaze. This was taken off the wall of a home where this was originally painted, and it took the team and professional conservationists who came from abroad to work with us at least almost a month to do it. But here, this is a discussion about the importance of taking care of what you have. Even if it's not something that was done the last post-independence, it's still a part of our history, and we think it's very important to continue to speak to that because it's a part of who we are. So we move back to ceramics in this corner here. These two pieces are done by Dennis Knight. He's considered the grandfather of ceramics in the Bahamas. He came to the Bahamas in the 1950s, around the same time as the group that started Chelsea Pottery did. And he really made his mark on the country. He lived here for at least almost 50 years. And right next to it, we have a pottery piece by Sue Bennett Williams, who's a part of the more modern group of ceramists who are working in the Bahamas. Here we move into really immersing ourselves in contemporary Bahamian art. All contemporary Bahamian art. So you'll see we have another found object piece by Blue Curry here. This is a tire covered in beans, which is very typical of Blue Curry's work. And you'll see a painting over here by John Beadle that's talking about Emancipation Day, right? And another one here is called The Face of Jesus in My Soup by Heino Schmidt, talking about religion. Again, right? Science is a huge part of our culture. And here we have Brent Malone talking about Junkanoo. And really this was the start of him really beginning to use a lot of Junkanoo forms in his work as a way to really bring this incredible art form to the forefront through fine art. Now that changes a little bit when we get over here, where this is an art piece that's done by Reverend Martin Thompson, who is what we would call an intuitive artist, right? Like an Amos Ferguson, like an Atika Simonet. And these are people who have no formal training, but they paint what they see through their gaze, using their experiences as a guide. So the conversation becomes, well, why do they get to be in a museum and not me who's doing a little something at home? The thing about intuitive artists that really makes them stand up from the rest is just the sheer amount of things that they paint, that they work, that they create. It's almost like this burning need to just make. And also, it's about the content of the work, right? What it speaks to, how it speaks to what's happening around the artist and what's happening in the country, and how significant that artwork is to the conversation that's happening in the country at that point in time. Now we come to the end of our Timelines exhibition. We've gone through the beginning with Chelsea Pottery, worked our way around to conservation, contemporary Bahamian art, and now we're coming to the end where we're in 2008 and onward. And here, this is a piece by Stan Burnside called Solomon. And this is really a portrait of Tony McKay. Now we know who Tony McKay is. Singer, fine artist, overall creative, amazing guy who truly embraced who he was as a black Bahamian man, as someone who's from Cat Island, embracing that part, I mean, not Cat Island, sorry, Exuma, we need to change that. So I'm going to start again. Who embraced who he was as a black man from Exuma, being a part of growing up in that culture, staying connected to those parts of his culture that are very much steeped in Africa. And what people don't know about Tony McKay is that he's someone who used to play in New York on the corner with people like Paul McCartney, the Beatles. How incredible, right? And so he's here being portrayed as a king, King Solomon, by Stan Burnside. A little bit over here, we get into really talking about more contemporary art in terms of the look, right? So here we're getting into the more conceptual side of it. We have John Cox's very small prints, where he's using his kind of very well-known, recognizable stamp, Enjoy. Now the question is, what are you enjoying? And we have Dion Benjamin Smith over here talking about black crab syndrome. So here, she created a whole new pledge. I pledge my allegiance to the crowd, to the common good of myself. And I would encourage you to really spend some time when you visit the gallery to really kind of stand in front of it and think about what that means and these words that she's choosing to use. Dion's work tends to be very tongue-in-cheek most of the time, but definitely hits the nail on the head in terms of social commentary. I'm standing in what we call our project space. Now this is a very small room in the National Art Gallery that we have set aside just for smaller exhibitions for artists who may be up-and-coming artists, may not be as well known, but are doing some pretty interesting stuff. And these exhibitions turn over pretty quickly, so they will change anywhere between 2 and 3 months at a time. And the exhibition we have up currently is called Home by Sue Katz. Sue Katz is an artist who's been living in the Bahamas for a very long time. She's originally from New York, and she really speaks to what it means to be someone from another country who's transitioned to a completely different culture in this country. And what does that mean for her in terms of what do you call home, right? So what is home? Is home where you are, or is home where you have been? And that's the conversation she's having with her work in this exhibition. We are now in what we call one of our temporary galleries. Now we have 2 temporary galleries, and in those galleries we show exhibitions that are up for anywhere from 4 to 5 months at a time. Those exhibitions can be retrospective, so artists work over decades. So when we call say retrospective, we really mean, I'm gonna start again, because I can't get my thoughts aligned. Okay, so we are standing in one of our temporary galleries, and these are galleries where our exhibitions are up for anywhere from 4 to 5 months. So they change out pretty often. These exhibitions are retrospective, so they showcase the work of an artist who's gotten pretty well known through their practice, whether in the Bahamas or internationally, Bahamian artists or artists living and working in the Bahamas over decades of work. We also have traveling exhibitions here, so exhibitions that have been in other countries, and we also have exhibitions that are curated around a very specific theme. Not necessarily historical like the permanent exhibition, but more social, economic, political, along those lines. The exhibition that's up right now is called Refuge. Now, this is a very different from exhibitions that we've normally done. This was done in response to Hurricane Dorian as a part of our effort to support those who have been impacted by Hurricane Dorian, especially the artists, because we are a museum. We wanted to make space for those who were impacted, and we were all impacted in some way, those who may not have been on the islands that were impacted, but had a connection to those islands. We really want to create a space for them to speak about their thoughts and their experiences. So we quickly, our curatorial team quickly put together what we call an open call. We've done several open calls over the years, including for our national exhibition. And this open call invited not just artists, but anybody who wanted to submit artwork or writings, to submit work that spoke to their thoughts and experiences around Hurricane Dorian. And it's a very powerful, very emotional exhibition. So as we go through, you may see some pieces that may be a little disturbing or upsetting. So just as a warning. So here I'm standing between two very different pieces. So we have Light of Abaco here on my right by Jenna Chaplin, and Mystery of the Mangroves by Lamero Wright. So here Jenna is talking about lighthouses and charting, you know, a way to find your way back home, right? That's what lighthouses exist for, that's what maps exist for, especially in a time where there was no GPS, and thinking about what it means to navigate when all systems are down. Here we have Lamero Wright, who's speaking about the importance of mangroves to our country. You know, mangroves are really our only line of defense against storms, and discussing how so many of those mangroves have been filled in the name of development. And here you have this face in the background that almost looks like a spirit. It's as if it's staring at you. Either it's coming after you or it's asking you a question. I think it's about how you choose to interpret it. I want to focus on this piece here. So this is one of two pieces submitted by this artist. It's called So Close Yet So Far. This artist, her name is Christina Wong. She has another piece that we'll see a little later. And in this piece, she's really showing a story that we heard continuously in September of people trying to get to a dry space, a place away from the water, and losing relatives along the way, no matter how hard they try to get them back. These three pieces, well, this is a great story actually. So these three pieces are done by Nicole Minnis Ferguson and Roshan Minnis. They're sisters, and they're both artists. These were done years before Hurricane Dorian hit. Now the Minnises had a gallery in Marsh Harbor, and these two paintings were done post-Hurricane Andrew. So for those who remember the destruction of Hurricane Andrew in Eleuthera, you can see the crumbled building here, the children standing in the destroyed home. And over here, you have these boys playing in the water on Independence Day. So thinking about our relationship with the water, how we use play. It brings us joy, but also how it can be so destructive. These paintings were packed up in their gallery, and when the gallery collapsed during the storm, somehow, some way, these paintings were spared the impact. They weren't destroyed. They were in the one corner of the building that did not get any water, any wind, nothing fell on them. So it was really incredible to have them in this exhibition. This work is by Leanne Russell. These are photographs that she took in Abaco after Hurricane Dorian, but if you look closely, you'll see overlaying these photographs are some older photographs of the same building. These photographs were taken in 1932 when another catastrophic hurricane hit Abaco. And during that time, hurricanes weren't named yet, so we don't have a name for that hurricane. And what she did here is she somehow found photos that exactly match the location of the existing photos that she took. And she overlaid them exactly so you could see really how, even though the time is different, you know, the amount of destruction and the suffering was very much the same. But what she also communicated to us here at the NAGB is that looking at those old photographs and looking at these new photographs proves that we have the capacity to come back from this, right? Almost 70 years later, Abaco was a thriving business center, commerce center, and we have the potential, we are able, history shows that we're able to come back from that. So it's one of pieces that document history, but pieces that also speak about hope. Behind me is a piece by Hannah Schmidt. This is called Home, and you will see that it's a very simple drawing of the outline of what we would consider a house. You know, it's like a box with a roof, right? And then on the outside of that, we have these coconut fronds dried. Now the question becomes, why did the artist choose to put these two pieces together? Why is very simplistic drawing of a home, in black and white no less, alongside these coconut fronds? And you know, we've had people speak about that, like what does home mean? And what does sustainable building in this country mean, right? What do we use these coconut leaves for? We find them everywhere. Is this a sign of hope because the coconut trees somehow are always standing after the storm, even if they're missing leaves? Is this about finding shelter, being able to rebuild? So a lot of questions in this piece that you could pull a lot of information from. Over here, we have a video piece by Tamika Galanis, and when you visit the gallery, you more than likely hear sound in this room that is a part of this piece, and that sound is a speech by the Dominican Prime Minister, in 2017 after Hurricane Maria decimated Dominica. And that was his speech to the UN, where he spoke about paradise being gone, about the importance of taking care of our planet, of the reality that small island nations like Dominica, like the Bahamas, are bearing the consequences of larger countries' progress, right? What's considered progress. All of the pollution, all of the digging for oil. We are experiencing the repercussions of that, even though we don't contribute significantly to this to the climate crisis, this escalation in climate change. So she has that sound going alongside these images from her family. These are family images of her uncles, of her brother. Many of these are at least 40, 50 years old. So you can see very 70s with the walking towards the camera. So here you have the Prime Minister of Dominica speaking about paradise being gone. And on the other side, this is what Tamika is talking about, the importance of archiving your memories. Even those family memories that you don't think are important to anybody except you, because one day they will all be gone. And the only thing you will have left are the images, are the photographs, are the videos. Here we come to the end of our Refuge exhibition. So to the right of me is another piece by the artist Christina Wong, the same person who did the painting with the child drifting away in the sea. And here this woman is laying in bed with her phone in front of her. And this is an image many people can relate to shortly after Hurricane Dorian. Many people had their phones in front of them on WhatsApp, sending messages to family members on Abaco and Grand Bahama, waiting for the blue tick. Some people never got the blue tick, and that was for many reasons. Unfortunately, some of the reasons was that they would never get another message from that person again. So here she's speaking to that state of being, that worry, that not sleeping at night, waiting to hear something, anything about your loved ones. Now, on the other side of me, this artwork is done by a student from Abaco. So he was on Abaco during the storm and was there for another 3 days after the storm left, before he was airlifted out to Nassau. And these paintings were done before we even put the open call out for Refuge. So for him, the art was important as a form of therapy. He did this for himself so that he could express how he felt, his thoughts, emotions, and we're very happy and quite privileged that he chose to share them with us.
Well, that is it for our tour here at the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. Definitely want to thank the National Art Gallery for hosting this tour for us. I want to especially thank Ms. Cartwright, our tour guide. And if you're an artist, if you're an art lover, this is definitely a place that you have to visit. If you're visiting Nassau for the first time, or even if you're a returning visitor, make sure that you ask your taxi driver or your tour guide to bring you here to the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas here on West Street. And, definitely take the tour of the different galleries that they have here. There is some amazing artwork in this gallery, I promise you. And this is also, I think, a good place for school groups to do field trips for your art classes. And what I'm going to do is I'll put some information about the National Art Gallery down in the description section so that you can contact them. So it's time for me to get up out of here, but first, I need y'all